Hello everyone, Sleep here, and welcome back to yet another video. Today we're going to be doing yet another tier list. We haven't done one of these in kind of a while. I think the last one I did was October, and since then I've mostly just kind of given my opinions through patch notes and such. And so today we're going to be talking about where I think the meta is in terms of where the game is right now, what I think is strong, what I think is weak, etc., and where I feel like the characters are right now. We're going to be going left to right in terms of what's on the bottom, and we're not going to be going through the Hero Labs characters. I actually want to do a separate video where I kind of give my thoughts on them, since I've been labbing the hell out of some of the potential these characters have and where I think they could be improved and such. So no more dilly-dallying around, and let's just get into the video. First character is Abrams, and Abrams I think is a very, very strong character still. I think he actually recently kind of got buffed, but more through like community discovery through the heavy melee cancel stuff. Him being able to cancel his melee is just really strong, especially in his laning phase, and he can become a bit of a monster. He can be a really solid carry, and I think he's still really good. Despite the amount of times they keep nerfing this character to seemingly account for the melee tech, I think he's, again, really, really solid. I think I'm going to probably put him in A tier. I honestly don't see him moving much from this tier, like, in general. I think he's actually just going to be here pretty consistently going forward into the game's meta. I think Abrams is a really solid pick. He does have obvious counterplay, but I think his main game plan is really interesting, and I think he's just one of the best designed tanks in the game right now. Now the next character I have some shit to talk about. Bebop, I feel like, has had like the most entitled audience in terms of players. This character has been nerfed so many times and then immediately reverted just for him to get buffed in the end. Recently they nerfed his bomb stack so that they don't apply when you put him on someone, and made it so that he actually would lose stacks when he would die, which killed a lot of the bomb meta around this character. A lot of people try to switch to hybrid and stuff, which was honestly, in my opinion, still pretty good, but a lot of people coped and seethed, and this character is back to being buffed with being able to stack bombs on people just off of putting on them, but he gets the bonus now off of getting bomb stacks on kills. So the character low-key kind of got buffed for people who were performing well with the character, and yeah, I think the people who play this character are really entitled. And I think this character is going to be a menace. I think this character is probably going to be A to S tier, probably higher up than Abrams right now. This character is stupid, and I legitimately just need the developers to commit to something with this character, because they just keep letting the community buff this character. He's not fun to play against. Stop it. The next character is Dynamo, and Dynamo, once again, I think he's going to be consistently in the S tier because his ultimate is just really good and can win entire team fights, and I think the character has a lot of really good things going for him, especially in the lane phase. He has a lot of damage on his gun, his little his little shockwave he sends out is just a really solid CC, and he's just able to get damage out really quickly. He's a really good support, and I just legitimately don't see his kit ever being bad. I think he's in a very similar spot to some of the other characters we'll be talking about later, but I think, yeah, this character is just going to be consistently S tier within this game's meta, unless they do some significant rework to him. Now, the next character that we're going to talk about is a little gross. I think Grey Talon right now might be the best character in the game right now. Grey Talon, he actually recently got a nerf that made it so that his shot speed and movement speed wouldn't scale with Spirit, but then they undid the movement speed part of it, and they actually changed around where the damage was from going from shot speed to the amount of damage he was doing. And so now his damage in terms of his gun actually scales with Spirit and isn't more about like landing consecutive shots. And now he's just like super fast still. I find him to be really oppressive in lane. I think he's back in that position he was like earlier a couple months ago where he was just dominating lane. This character is kind of gross. I mean, his ultimate's really good. The abilities he has is really good. I think right now this character is easily one of the best characters in the game right now. Now this next character might be our worst character in the game right now, that being Haze. Haze had a little bit of a period where she was dominating a lot of metas, and so a lot of game plan around her evolved. And so a lot of the game plan around her evolved. A lot of people try to learn how to counter her a lot more, and people got really good at learning to pick up metal skin, along with the developers nerfing this character over and over again. She's just not in the greatest spot right now, and I do think they maybe should revert some of the nerfs that were done to her, just because, I mean, people just had to learn the counterplay around getting metal skin to deal with her, and while she is annoying and kind of one of the more boring characters to play, she definitely didn't deserve to be put in a position as she is now, where it feels like she doesn't get crazy value anymore. Now the next character we're going to talk about is Infernus. Infernus, I think, is really good. The damage he does through his ultimate is The damage he does through his passive with the burn is really good. It's always been good. This character is just a DPS monster, and he's been just consistently in this position of doing really good in terms of outputting damage throughout the entirety of this game's existence, really. People have been building the character a little differently with incorporating elements like Leech and really building like a more tankier Infernus, but generally just his output on damage is way too good to look past to be just not one of the best in the game easily. Now Ivy. Ivy has been a character that has gone up, gone a little bit down, up again, and I think right now she's probably in a pretty healthy spot. I don't really see much Ivy complaining nowadays, and I actually think her meta right now is very fun. I think her being very focused around getting more focused around supporting her team, engaging in team fights, and having her power be in her 1 has actually been a really good shift in the meta, and it's such a nice spread. And it's such a nice breath of fresh air for a game where Ivy was basically just running around and just ratting objectives. She was just not fun to play before with how people were building her before, and I'm happy this 1 meta has really developed for her. Right now I think she's about B tier. I don't think she's bad. I don't think she's like super amazing. I don't think she's like super oppressive or amazing. I think she's right here, and I think she's in a really healthy spot. Now Kelvin. Kelvin I think is in an interesting spot. They keep nerfing his 3 so that he doesn't have slowdown, but honestly I don't think that's where the character's power is right now. Actually, I'm going to put him in S tier because I think being able to do stuff like Dome the Guardian you're fighting against is really strong and oppressive. The amount of value you could get out of just trapping people with his ultimate is just really good, and people have just gotten really good at using this character in terms of how he uses his kit and such. I think this is easily one of the best support characters in this. I think he's easily one of the best characters in the game right now, and he keeps evolving with a lot of different metas. There was actually a little mini meta that was going around where he was just running around collecting boxes, and that's what he did for getting his farm up the entire game, and it was kind of funny. People called it like the Amazon worker meta, and it was pretty wild, but I think he's in a very similar spot to Dynamo where his ultimate is just fundamentally like super strong in design, and he's just going to be pretty relevant all the time despite them nerfing stuff like, again, his 3 and some aspects of his other kit. And some other aspects of his kit. Now, Lady Geist I actually feel like is in mid tier right now. I don't think she's particularly amazing or anything. They actually recently nerfed her siphon ability where she like sucks you or whatever with her like energy or whatever. And that used to be able to silence you, and it was really strong, but they changed up some properties that made it less strong, but it's still very oppressive, and she still does a buttload of damage. Her ultimate is amazing. It's very gimmicky. And her gun is very much where she wants to build around right now. She's very much like a gun build type of character that has a little bit of those aspects of spirit and like escalating exposure and such. But I think she's in a pretty solid spot right now. I actually think her and Ivy are in spots where I feel like this is where the game's general balance should be, and some of these characters up here could potentially be tweaked. Now Lash. I honestly think this character has fallen off a little bit. Don't get me wrong, Lash is still really good when you get him going, but the problem is I feel like there's so many characters that are really oppressive in lane and are really hard to go against, where Lash gets put in a position where he's behind, and being behind his Lash is just really rough, and so you can't do a lot of damage with your ultimate. You start to fall behind, people are building a lot more reactive barrier, and so he's not getting as much out of CCing them with his ultimate and such, and yeah, it just feels like he's not getting as much value out of his kit as he once was. People have gotten a lot better at dealing with this character, and honestly that might put him in C tier. I don't quite think he's as bad as Haze, for example, right now, but I feel like he's lost a lot of his identity that made him so strong, and people have just gotten a lot better at building around this character. Now McGinnis. A lot of people gave me shit for this character's placement in my previous tier list because I put this character in S tier. And guess what? I'm gonna do it again because this character is ridiculous. And guess what? Most people agree with me that I was right now. This character is ridiculous. People have gotten some crazy tech going on with her ultimate where they're able to cleanse the slowdown when she goes into her ultimate, speed her up, and you're just getting chased down by this like crazy barrage of damage. Her wall is just really strong. It's one of the best moves in the game. The turrets just help you shred through objectives really quickly. She can do anything in the game. She can play any role in any team right now, and I think she's probably tied, if not a little better than Talon right now. I think she's just super powerful. Once again, people gave me a lot of shit last time for my placement of this character, but I high-key was ahead of the metagame on this one. Now the next character is Krill, and this character is ridiculous. They for some reason just keep shadow buffing this character. They just keep giving him these like little small increments of numbers just going up, and I don't know if it's just like the win percentages or something of this character just being down or something, but I think this character is just really good. And the fact they just keep buffing parts that I already find to be really oppressive about him is just insane to me. This character has an insane ultimate that's able to shut down people who are carrying super hard. This character has insane self-sustain. He has crazy speed when he has his burrow maxed out with some stuff like Fleet Foot. He's just a really good character. I legitimately think we're gonna see a Mo and Krill meta like really hard soon, where we're gonna see like this character praised as like the best character in the game right now. In fact, I think so much that he's probably above, that he's probably tied it around with Infernus right now. I might actually think he's a little better, but I'll honestly have to see how the meta develops. So I'm gonna put him right here for right now. Now the next character we're going to talk about is Paradox. Paradox is just always S tier. I've talked about it with some of the other characters here, and I've said it for her like many times before. I think she's just fundamentally well designed. Her kit is just never going to be bad, and they keep buffing aspects of it. Like her bomb recently got a buff where she was able to expand the radius of it through every tick, and now it's just super oppressive, and she kind of feels like a stronger Ivy in some aspects. I don't have much else to say about this character. She's a little higher execution, so some of the lower MMR isn't going to see this character as much, but I still think Paradox is just really good. Most definitely always going to see this character in terms of meta. In fact, so much so, I think she's probably around here, I'd say right now, in terms of her placement amongst the other characters. Yeah, I feel pretty comfortable with putting her there. Now, Pocket is a character that I feel like is just always powerful. They haven't really done much of this character in terms of his power aside from nerfing the AoE on these little shots that will go out that put the stack on you. I think that was a really good nerf to a lot of lower level Pocket players that were just landing shots they shouldn't have because it was hitting behind cover and the AoE was just ridiculous before. But I think he's still really good. In fact, he's probably a bit above Infernus right now. I think Pocket's just always going to be a really solid character unless they start tweaking the numbers on stuff like his ultimate and such. I think he just has a really strong playstyle. His gun is really good. Just really strong character overall. The next character is Seven, and I think Seven is just in a really solid spot. I think he's a little annoying to play with. I think Seven players are getting a stigma built around them that they honestly deserve, where they just hyper farm the entire game and don't contribute much to team fights and such. There is a little bit around this character that I think is really strong though. I think being able to Echo Shard your little stun ability is really good, and that's why I'm going to put him right there, because getting hit with 2 stuns that can also stun the rest of your team is really good. This character has crazy damage through his little balls that he throws out. It's not as crazy as it once was when he had these huge, just, I mean, global like feeling balls that would just like stun the entire lane. It was ridiculous. But I think Seven's still really good. He's a little bit of a pub stomper, of course. I think his ult is very counterable, blah blah blah. People get on me over that, but it's true. If you're playing Seven, get Unstoppable to counter the counterplay, and honestly roll your dice on hitting that ultimate Majestic Leap. Overall though, really solid character, easy to get into. Not much to say here. Now Vindicta. Vindicta is a character a lot of people are sleeping on right now, and I highly think she's better than Great Talon. I think her shot speed is really crazy, her snipes are getting really crazy, she's able to move super fast because of a recent buff to her flight where she could just schmoove in the sky now. People use Echo Shard on her flight too, and so she's just constantly in the air and denies characters like Mo and Krill who really rely on getting up close, Abrams who can't really do much when she's in the sky. Like, she can deny entire characters from existing in the match basically if she just stays in the sky, and it's kind of gross. She does a crazy amount of damage. She got a buff to her fall off, and yeah, she just does insane amounts of damage. This character is really good right now. Easily an S tier character. I know I've said there's a lot of characters that are S tier in this game, but I think the game just is in a position where a lot of characters are just broken, and I think that's fun. I think that's a really fun meta. Obviously there are some characters that are being left behind right now, but I think building your game around having everyone be super broken is a lot more fun than having a game where it just feels like shit. Warden is getting so many shadow buffs to his abilities through his cage and stuff that it's just getting kind of ridiculous. This character, I highly think if they buff his like cage and his like if they buff his cage and ultimate one more time, it's going to be absolutely insane. I do think he took a little bit of a hit from not being able to set up his ultimate with Majestic Leap and such as easily, but I think this character is still going to be super, super ridiculous if they just keep tweaking his numbers. Like, he's in a position where they just keep adding little by little, and over time that's going to build up to make this character kind of a menace to deal with. I'm warning you guys, this character is going to be gross. Now Wraith. Wraith I don't think is insanely overpowered. I think she's still really good. These are honestly Honestly, this group of characters here feel like characters that the game should be in terms of balance. Honestly, this group of characters right here in A and B feel like what the game should be in terms of balance, and while it is fun to have your characters up here be really goofy, I do think this should be just the general core of where Deadlock balance should be, aside from Bebop. But right now, I think Wraith is probably an A tier. I think she's just super solid. She shoots stuff really fast, she gets picks, she does her job really well. She's able to get in, get out, take out objectives. She's just really solid gun, really good ultimate, just very good character overall. Now this next character, a lot of people are going to be saying I'm downplaying because I've played this character a lot. But high key, I do not think Yamato is that amazing right now. I know, crazy. But Yamato right now I think struggles a lot from her ultimate having a little bit of an identity crisis. Her ultimate used to have a lot of damage reduction when she went into it, so she'd be able to recover a lot easier and get out of that position where she's at like 1 health a lot easier. But right now she's in a position where there's so many characters, say Pocket or Infernus, that are really good, plus her ultimate not really having that reduction, that puts her in a position where she just takes so much goddamn damage when she's in the ultimate. You might as well just pop it as soon as you just run out of cooldowns as like a refresher essentially, instead of using it as like a way to get away and such, because trying to get away with Yamato's ultimate right now feels miserable. I don't know what they're doing with just getting rid of the damage reduction and legitimately just give us a little bit of that back. I get the character sometimes had metas where she would chase you down and she'd have insane amount and just have seemingly an insane amount of healing in terms of seemingly an insane amount of health and self-sustain while she was in the ultimate, and while that was a little bit ridiculous, I think right now she's in a position where her ultimate almost feels useless outside of the refresher aspects of it. Like nobody's gonna be using it for the increased like DPS damage on the gun. It isn't that good. This character, while having a little bit of builds you could build around through gun, doesn't get nearly as much value out of doing stuff like building into Spear right now in my opinion. I'm going to put her down here with Lash because, again, I feel like these two characters right now are in a position where they have a little bit of an identity crisis. Speaking of nerfed characters, we have Shiv here, and I think he's actually in a position where he's like a slightly better Lady Geist in terms of position right now. This character, once you know to get stuff like toxic bullets and heal bane, you're able to deal with really easily. But if he gets ahead, he can carry really strong, and he does still have a lot of crazy damage he could do in terms of fighting other players, where he's able to 1v3 really easily if he just gets the ball rolling. But as soon as the other team you're fighting against gets stuff that allows them to really take advantage of this character's weaknesses through how he self-sustains and heals, he honestly falls off a little bit and isn't quite as oppressive as he once was. Honestly, this character went from being one of the best characters in the game to honestly a pretty healthy spot in my opinion. Now the final character we have here is Viscous, and I think Viscous is pretty solid. He does a lot of damage, he's a solid support character. His like little splatter thing he throws out does a buttload of damage, can just absolutely chunk so many people through just like throwing out one of those in the middle of a team fight, and he's always kind of a threat when he has that on deck. His healing he does for his team is really good, and just the amount of damage he's able to output is just really solid. I don't have much to say about this character overall. I don't really like fighting against him, but I think he's in a position where he's a lot healthier than he once was. Let me see if I need to make any adjustments in terms of character placements and relativity to each other real quick. I'm probably gonna move Abrams over here, and then I'll probably move Viscous up one here. I think everything else I'm pretty happy with. Everyone I'm pretty comfortable in terms of their placement right now, and this is about where I'd probably put everyone in terms of their tier list. This game is very much like a lot of the characters are very meta right now, and I think that's really awesome. I do think some of the power overall of the game needs to be brought down a little bit, especially with the self-sustain and healing, but I think with some of the characters are going to be adding in the future, potentially we could be seeing a lot more anti-heal coming into the game, and making it so just we aren't all just a bunch of walking tanks in the middle of these fights. But let me know what you guys thought about this tier list. Did you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? What are your guys' thoughts on the meta right now? And just, yeah, I love hearing about people just talk about this game in general. This has been just a super fun game to talk about, and I'm just super happy to be making content on it. If you guys enjoyed this video, once again, leave a like, comment, and subscribe. And until then, this has been Sleep, and I hope to see you guys next time. Bye-bye.